It's such a joy to be with you all today. Thank God for the opportunity God gave me also to come and fellowship with you all. Bible is full of interesting stories and incidents. So it's a good encouragement for children and teenagers and young people especially to invest time to read the Bible with interest. It will enrich us, give us wisdom. One of such an incident is recorded in an interesting story is recorded in the book of Acts chapter 28. There, when Paul was being taken to Rome, his ship suffered a shipwreck. Fortunately, they were saved. They were housed. People in an island called Malta received them, looked after them, and it was raining. So we read an incident there. So they kindled a fire, and Paul gathered some sticks and put those sticks into the fire. So what happened? A snake came out and wrapped around his hands. So people were surprised to see that. What is this man? He escaped from a shipwreck, and see, the justice is not leaving him. Punishment is waiting him. See, and they thought this snake will bite him, and he will be swollen, and suddenly he'll fall to the ground and die. That is what people expect. Certainly this man is a murderer. That's what they determined about Paul. And what happened? Nothing happened to Paul. He just shook his hand. That it was a viper, by the way. It fell into the fire, and nothing happened to it. So then they changed their mind. What we expect is not happening. Now they changed the opinion about Paul. He's God. That's what interesting. How people can change the opinion from being murderer to God. So when I read this thought came to me. This is what the value of people's opinion. At one time they'll call you a murderer, and another time they'll call you God. So what do we learn from that? People's opinion will change, and it's no use for us. So by nature, we like people's opinion about ourselves. But as God's children, we should seek freedom from opinion of people. We need a freedom in our life that people's opinion about doesn't matter. It changes. They can't give us anything. What matters is the opinion of God about us. What matters is God's opinion about us. If people call me a prophet, I will not become a prophet. If people call me a thief or something else, I will not. So how does it matter really? But by nature, it's a struggle for us. We are so influenced. We are so interested to have good opinion of people. We can be carried away with the opinion of people. We value people's opinion. But the more we draw closer to God, we should learn to value less and less people think about us. We should be more focused on what God thinks about me. That is what matters. So that's a little lesson we can learn from that interesting story. I was just casually reading that passage. God spoke to me so much. Because I was like anyone else, someone who valued people's opinion. I lived many years of my life lived before people. And I remember one day when my mother was at deathbed, some words she said, I was surprised why she said so, I don't know. She said, son, you should not value people's opinion. It doesn't matter, it's of no use. You should value God's opinion about you. And it really clicked in my heart. And I thank God for the Lord is teaching these things to us. And increasingly, we should desire and we should examine in our hearts what is God's opinion about? What does God think about me? Is the Lord happy with me? Because people know about my external appearance or good opinion, how I behave well, how I deal with people. External thing people know. But people, they don't know, have no idea about my inside. And that is what is of value. We should focus our attention to God's opinion about us. And that true spirituality is learn to increasingly valuing and aligning our interests also to God's interests. Sometime back, I was reading a passage from 1 Samuel chapter 16. This is a passage when God rejected Saul, the first king of Israel, and God had decided to select another king, a second king, a man after God's own heart. So in that background, God sent the prophet Samuel to a man called Jesse's house, and God told him, I have decided to select a person, and I'll reveal that to you. When you go there, I'll show the person. You have to anoint him as a king. Because that is a major decision. To make someone as the king of Israel is not a joke. It's a very important decision which God made. So God, Samuel being a prophet going, he's a man, and he saw one of David's brothers, very tall, very stout, strong, and Samuel thought maybe his eyes, he could not miss that person, very tall, taller than everyone else. So maybe this is the man. Like that Samuel thought. So what did God say? We read that in 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 7. But the Lord said to Samuel, do not look at his appearance, at the height of his stature. So don't look at it. So the same principle God is telling Samuel, you're a prophet. Don't evaluate things just by what your eyes see. You should learn to go beyond. So that's what God is saying. Don't go by the height of that person or the appearance of that person. What we can see with our naked eyes. Then the Lord is sending a principle that we should remember. Verse 7, 1 Samuel 16, verse 7. God sees not as man sees. This is something we should remember. God will not see as man looks. So there's a difference between how a man looks at others and how God looks at other people. Man looks at the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. So when God made this very important decision, one of the very important major decisions, God did not go by man's appearance. As even like Samuel, who was a godly man, even he missed God's plan. So he also tried to go like any people would normally go. External appearance, logic, intelligence, strength. That way he thought. But God's ways are different. God does not look as man sees. Man looks at the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. So I remember this is the way the Holy Spirit was impressing in my heart. I should learn to give focus on where God gives focus. Here, God is looking at the heart. And that is where I should also be focusing. In my own life, God is looking not what are good they say or what are bad they say. Doesn't matter. But God looks at my heart. And I should be interested in what is inside in my heart. So that thought really helped me to slowly learn to live before God, seek to live before. It's still a journey for all of us. And less and less interested, less and less unaffected by what people say about us, good or bad. We need encouragement. We all need that. Nothing wrong in it. Graciously receiving encouragement with thanks. That's fine. But we should not be just interested in people's opinion. Because people say things looking at external things. But God is interested in our heart, in my heart. So it's good that I am also more interested in what's inside me, which no one may know. But my interest should be, I should be concerned what is going inside me, because that is where the focus the Lord gives. So that will help us to spiritually grow and learn to walk with the Lord, less and less affected by what people tell about us. And freedom from people's opinion is a huge thing. It's a blessed thing to be free from people's opinion, including the opinion of our elders, including the opinion of others. Learn to walk before God. Then we will be less and less free from the opinion of people. When Jesus was talking to his disciples about his second coming, that is in Matthew chapter 25, Jesus used an illustration, a parable. I think most children know this parable very well. Parable of, I think it's a parable, what, 10 virgins, 5 plus 5. So what is the difference? There 5 virgins were wise and 5 virgins were unwise, foolish. That is a story we know I think from Sunday school time we are very familiar. And 5 were wise, 5 were foolish, and the foolish virgins, they carried the lamp. Externally, all these 5 plus these 2 sets of people are looking alike, probably very polished. It was made of brass or something, externally shiny. I also have a lamp. They could show to boast about it. I do have a lamp. Here it is. So nobody can make out. So it's like 10 people are standing here and raising their lamps. We don't know whether what inside is there something. So externally, everybody is looking alike. So God is differentiating based on what is inside. So the wise virgins carried oil. They thought about it. It's not enough to make a show of the good, shining lamp like other 5 people. They thought, I need to carry the oil, otherwise it's of no value. But the foolish people, foolish virgin, they had just interest to show off their lamp. I also have a lamp. Here it is. Maybe it's more shiny, it is possible, externally shining better than the lamps of the wise virgin. So Jesus was conveying a message, especially that in the context of his second coming. And what happened when there was a delay in the bridegroom's coming? They fell asleep, and then when they got up, they started trimming their lamps, and the foolish virgins' lamp is not, there's no oil, so they cannot light it. And they tried to borrow, and they said, no, we can't really give it to you. We have just enough for ourselves. And they said, better you go out and buy. They went to buy, and by the time the bridegroom came, and the door was shut, and they came late, and they did not get an opportunity. That is the story. But we have, at the end, and the bridegroom also said, truly, I do not know you. That is what is written in verse 11, Matthew chapter 25, 11. Please, they came, somehow gathered, bought oil from somewhere, came, but it was too late. So Jesus concluding that, be on the alert in verse 13, Matthew 25:13. Be on the alert then, for you do not know the day or the hour. The overall message is, it's not enough to live a life with a good opinion, with a good testimony. A testimony before people is important, nothing wrong in it, but it is not enough. A good opinion of having a vessel is not enough. A lamp in hand is not enough. We should remember, to use that lamp, oil is required. I should not forget to take the oil. And what is oil? Oil, as we know, it is something hidden. No one knows whether somebody is having oil or no. Inside, it is inside. No one can, with our eyes, cannot see. Only they can see, God can see. So that's a good principle. Oil is something hidden. And without that hidden oil, we cannot enter. Door will be closed. And we will be unwise, foolish virgins in that category. And for entering God's kingdom, it is not just enough to have a lamp or a good testimony before people. Whatever people say, the best opinion, best brother, best sister in the church, honestly, it carries no value unless they're inside alive before God. We should never forget that. And it is very natural. If you think in normal common sense, it's very natural. Nothing, God is not demanding anything unusual. It is natural expectation that it is not enough to carry a lamp, but oil is required. God is also not demanding something unusual, harsh or anything. So our inner life is as simple as that. Along with the vessel, oil is required. It's as simple, plain, nothing unusual in that. And one principle we can learn is also, we cannot borrow oil from others. I can't borrow oil even from my wife. She may love to give me, but she cannot. So our inner life cannot be borrowed. We have to receive it from the Lord. The character of Jesus Christ, we can't, we have to work. We cannot live under the shadow of somebody. However close we are to them, we have to gather. Each individually, each one has to gather that oil. Our hidden life before God cannot be borrowed from others. He cannot rely on others. May God really help us to continue to walk in before God in our secret life, and make sure that our hidden life, in our vessels there is oil. We are not taken by surprise, and door is not shut, and it is not enough. We should not be happy with just having a vessel. We should never forget the importance, the value of having oil. And we should also not forget the fact that we cannot last moment borrow it from somebody else. We cannot take the name or rely on someone else to give it to us. We cannot get it. We have to, years we live on earth, we have to gather that oil. So we know this oil, we all know oil is produced mostly by a process called crushing. So God's ways are different. Sometimes we may not like that crushing experiences, but that is the way. Even though it is painful, even though it is hard, God can use it. Even though we don't want, it's not very welcome to us, we don't like it, but God can use some hard path, some crushing experiences in our lives, some rejection by some people, some oppression, some ill treatment, injustice, treated unjustly. All this, sometimes God can allow in His wisdom in our lives, and so that we are broken inside. It is not to destroy us, not to crush our spirit, but to create something inside, a character development, a more Christ-likeness in our lives. That is God's way. Even though we don't like people whom God has chosen, God has loved, in whom God has a plan. God in his love will allow us to pass through some crushing experiences so that it offers us an opportunity to gather some oil in us. If you understand that, there is peace. Otherwise, struggle, we'll battle with the people, we'll battle with we'll wrestle even with God. Why, God? I seek to live a godly life. Why you allow these things, these hard times in my life? Why my prayers are not answered? Why there's a delay? Why things are not easily happening in my life? See, my neighbor, that brother, things are easy for them. Why things are hard for me? We can think. But when you understand God's ways, we can graciously welcome those crushing experiences God allows in our lives. When you understand the secret, we will be at peace. It's painful. It's shattering us in a way. But God is observing us, doing something silently in our lives. As a result, we can little gather slowly. That process of crushing creates oil, drips, something valuable for us, an inner life, a character, understanding God's ways, becoming more like Jesus Christ. We learn through that hard path. I want to take you through a few passages in the scriptures which has blessed me and encouraged me. One is Psalm chapter 66, verses 10 to 12. Psalm 66, verses 10 to 12. I'm not reading all these verses fully to save time. Here, verse 10, we read, "O God," the psalmist says, "O God, you have tested me. You have refined us as silver is refined." Silver refined by heating process. And then, verse 11, he is saying, "You have brought us into the net." Who is saying? He's recognizing it's God who allowed, like as being inside a net, like a trap. Like I'm constrained, limited. I feel like I lost my freedom. I'm confined in either by physically or circumstantially, we are constrained so much. It's not something we like freedom, liberty. But God has constrained us for a while. And interestingly, God's ways are not forever. It's all for a while. And you laid affliction on our backs. And verse 12 saying that you have caused men to ride over our heads. We went through fire and through water, and after all this process, he's saying that then you brought us out into rich fulfillment, a place of abundance. So before reaching, opening up, before bringing to a place of abundance, there was a process. Hard period, a few years, we don't know, it depends. Some time of crushing, hard, difficulty, people trampling over us, over our head. It's not a comfortable thing. Everywhere facing injustice in the workplace, sometimes in families. We all have different ways experienced all this. I remember in my workplace some years back when there was a period, 3 years, very difficult period. I thought, those 3 years of really passing hard time made me meek and humbled me, because I think I was so proud. I used to think I was the best employee in my company. That was my own opinion, very high opinion of myself. So all crashed. Almost like written people trembling over me. I used to remember, Jesus said, if the salt loses its flavor, it's like people tremble over. So I was experiencing that. God allowed people to tremble over me. My rights were rejected. I was sidelined. Lot of crushing experience. And I thought, my initial temptation was, I'll leave this job and go. God can give me another 100 jobs. But God, no, I want you to be here. I am behind this. I want to do some work in you. I'm using your boss. I'm using your subordinates. But I want to see something happen inside you. So when I heard that, I was comforted. It's hard for me, but God has a plan. So it's better that I am endure through this. Let God's work be completed in my life. When I understood that brought trust. I allowed you do whatever you can. I just gave myself. Then things were easy when I understood God is behind it. It was for a short period, 3 years. But God then brought, as written there, a place of abundance came after that. But by then, God had done a work inside me. I was crushed. I was broken. I became humble. I became meek. I became very grounded, normal human being. I was not thinking I am the best, etc. So I understood God's ways. And that is some memorable period in my life. So God used those things to do a work in a character development in our life. God wants to do that. Especially God loves us. God has a plan for us. We are precious before God's eyes. So it's good that we understand God's ways and don't miss those opportunities to gather oil. There is life in us. We are not just happy with a good opinion or colleagues speak about us or brothers and sisters speak about us. So no value. It's good. We have to think, good, okay, thank you, brother, sister, we can say. But don't be happy just with that. God is interested in our inside life. And there's a passage in Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 11. This passage says that God has a plan for each one of us. That's a very comforting and encouraging truth. Jeremiah 29:11. I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord. It's a wonderful thing. Even when this is a time when children of Israel were in a Babylonian captivity, they were suffering, and still God is saying, but you are in difficulty. This is necessary for you, but don't forget, I have a plan for your life. It's not, I just don't allow you just get crushed and destroyed. That's not my intention. You may be suffering now. You may be enduring persecution, difficulty, hardship, but don't forget, I have a plan. It's all part of my plan for you. That is what God was telling them. And that plan, God is also, it's not for your welfare, my children, not for a calamity. That's a good, interesting thing, encouraging thing, comforting thing. God's plans for us is not for calamity, something bad to happen, some accident to happen. That is not God's plan. God may allow those things as a process, a path, but that is not our destiny. God's plans for us is for our welfare, to give us a future and a hope. We should never forget that. God's plan for us is not to bring about a calamity, but to give us a future and a hope. It's a wonderful thing to remember, even when we are passing through difficult patches in our life. We should never forget. I'm being crushed, fine. But the Lord is there, carefully watching me. God is just interested in that outcome. I don't want to miss that outcome intended by God. See, when God allowed extremely intense, difficult situation in Job's life, we know the story of Job. None of us have passed to such a, we hard to believe that time that he experienced all in a short time. But it's not about him to bring about an outcome. God has a plan, even in allowing hard, difficult situation in the life of Job. That is it everywhere. In any child of God, when God allows something, he has an intended outcome. There's another passage in 2 Corinthians chapter 4. In fact, 2 Corinthians chapter is an interesting chapter. There are so many places where Paul is speaking about hard things. Right in the first chapter itself is saying that we are passing through difficulties, and he's addressing God as a Father of mercies and God of all comfort. So even when he understood that I'm passing through difficulties, persecution, rejections by people, but he knew my God of mercies, Father of mercies and God of all comfort. So one way God allows difficulty, other way the Lord also comforts us, hand-holding us and securing us and allowing, guiding us to, navigating us through so that God's purposes are fulfilled. So this is such a passage in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 8 and 9. We read that we are afflicted in every way, but not crushed. So sometimes I think that expression, he's saying, I am afflicted on every way, literally every way. But he's adding, but I am not crushed. Sometimes some kind of picture comes, it's like a road roller, which is used for surfacing road, riding over a man, and something like that. But he said, I'm not crushed. I am afflicted on every side. That is true. But still I'm not destroyed. I'm not crushed. That is not, God's purpose is not to crush me or destroy me. It is to bring out oil, to refine character. That is God's purpose. That's what he is saying. So God allows afflictions on every side, but God will not allow us to be crushed. It's good to remember that. This is something encouraged me. When I pass through difficulties, this is something truly encouraged me. Okay, it's hard. I'm afflicted. But God's intention is to, my spirit should not be crushed. I should not be discouraged. I should not be destroyed. That is not God's purpose. It's to bring out the oil. That crushing is necessary to break my pride, to change my character. And he's saying, I'm perplexed, but not in despair. It can happen in some situation. We don't, what are things happening to me? Or confusion. Perplexion means I'm confused. I don't know what to do. Just like Jehoshaphat is saying, surrounded by enemies from all sides. He's saying that he decided to seek the Lord. And he's praying, Lord, I don't know what to do. But he's saying, my eyes are upon you. So Paul could say, I am perplexed, but I am in despair. I don't know what to do. I know if somebody asks me a question, I still pass through some situation where somebody, I know I keep my mouth shut, I have no answer. But there is a spirit of faith inside. It's a matter of time. God will do. I may not have an answer. It's okay. I don't need to give answer to everyone's questions. I'm perplexed. I don't have an answer now. Some of you may be passing situation where you have no answer. You are perplexed. That's fine. God allowed even that beloved Apostle Paul. He was perplexed. Nothing wrong in that. But don't be in despair. We are not God. We don't need to know everything. We only need to trust God. I don't have all the answers, but I trust God. God knows the answer. And I'm okay with that. Whatever God revealed to me, I receive it. I'm thankful. But there are many things He don't. I'm a human being, my limited understanding. I don't know. I can't understand God's ways. That is okay. But I know that God is there with me. Even though I am perplexed, I will never be despair. I will not be discouraged. I will not lose my trust in the Lord. God will bring out the intended outcome. I will wait for it. I am fine with it. I am used to it, God's ways. I have experienced years in the past. God's ways I have learned. That is why God has allowed many things in our past life so that when we know God's ways, we need not be in despair. And he's also saying in verse 9, I am persecuted but not forsaken, struck down but not destroyed. When I was reading something which I learned in many places in the scriptures, wherever afflictions, hardship, trials, persecution, etc. are mentioned, very often there's something added for a time, for a while, momentary, etc. are used. Meaning it's not permanent, it's for a time. I remember a picture coming to my mind is when earlier when we used to go to Kerala from Mumbai, there's some train passes some tunnels. Inside the tunnel, that passing through tunnel is not a comfortable experience. It's all dark. But after a while, train, the way it entered the tunnel, it also comes out after a while. We know that, so we are not perplexed. In the same way, whatever happened, there is a way out in the right time. When you know that we can be at rest. So very often, afflictions, difficulties, crushing, everything was for a while, for a time. And the purposes, intended purpose is over, God will release it. Just like pressure cooker we use in the kitchen. Is to cook food, is not to explode, destroy the vessel itself. The pressure relief valve is released and the pressure relief, purpose is done, it's over. Here we read in such an expression in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 16. We do not lose heart, but though our outer man is decaying, our inner man is being renewed day by day. So it's a good expression. Paul is able to say, my inner man is being renewed day by day. There's a revival happening inside. Even when external circumstances are not so favorable, inside something positive things are happening. Like progressively a revival is happening in the inner man. Inner man is being renewed day by day. There's no decline. It's always growing. The inner man is growing. That is God's plan for our lives. We should desire such a life, irrespective of the things around us in our lives. We should desire. My inner man should be renewed day by day. And then in verse 17, 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 10, he used this expression. For the momentary light affliction is producing for us an eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison. We don't look at the things which are seen, because things which are seen are temporary, but things which are not seen are eternal. That's a principle. Things which we don't, what we see, they are temporary. It's for a while. It's for a momentary light affliction. It's for a while. It's not permanent. But things which are not seen, that is happening inside, that is eternal. Sadhu Sundar Singh said something like this: we have only one life. We have only one opportunity in life to take the cross, to put ourselves into death for Jesus. No opportunity in heaven for putting ourselves to death. So this crushing, this brokenness, etc., what we read in the scripture is only for, we have that opportunity to pass through only in this earthly life. Sadhu Sundar understood that. When you're in heaven with Jesus, there's no crushing there. That is the time to enjoy the oil we have gathered. So we should not miss that opportunity which God permits in a measured way each one of our life. We should not miss that. Our inner life, power of our inner life, our character, the Christ life is very powerful. Influence of that. So that is why we should not neglect it. We should not miss attention in developing our inner character. There's a passage I want to highlight, that is in 1 Peter chapter 3. 1 Peter chapter 3. In verse 1, there is an extremely powerful promise. It's directed to married women, sisters, we can say, but it's equally applicable to a man. It's straight away applicable. Suppose, so I'll read that verse. In the same way, 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 1. In the same way, you wives, be submissive to your own husbands, so that even if any of them are disobedient to the word, they may be won without a word by the behavior of their wives. So what you understand is something, it can have, many sisters, unfortunately their husbands are still not in faith, they pray, wait, they pray because others would pray. It's very common. And someday in the reverse also, husband is a believer, wife, many families that happen. But, so the encouragement here is, there is no need for, I don't know whether you know, there's a expression written, without a word. Without a word. It's not by a lot of preaching or advices that we can win our unbelieving partner, whoever it is. But without a word, we need to underline that. I underline that in my word. I was surprised that word of God so accurately mentioned, without a word. Our tendency to preach, to advise, to correct. Listen to this message. Nothing wrong in a good spirit, but we should not rely on that. God's ways are different. But here, he may be one with the behavior of the wise, that is mentioned. And same with the husband, as I mentioned also. If husband is a believer, wife is not a believer, the way to win her is not by a lot of advice, instruction, but by our life, our inner character. That wife should see, my husband was not a believer, now he is a believer. Now he was not, now he is a believer. See the change in his life, that silent transformation, and that also progressing year after year. He is getting better and better and better. It is that which should God use to save his wife. So it's a powerful promise, amazing promise. And we also learn our inner character is so powerful. God can use it to change others, our family members, someday our colleagues, people who are closer to us. God can use the transformation in us to use as a tool for changing others. We read in the same chapter, verse 3, 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 3. Your adornment must not be external. Examples are given there like gold, jewelry, putting on costly dress, etc. Verse 4 it says, your adornment must not be external, but let it be the hidden person of the heart. So the focus is, what is your adornment? The hidden person of the heart. Means our inner life, the oil that is there inside the vessel, that is our adornment. And about that it is mentioned, is a little qualified there, with the imperishable quality of a gentle and quiet spirit. And that is precious in the sight of God. So the hidden person of heart is the imperishable quality of gentle and quiet spirit that is precious in the sight of. So God is valuing that inner, that hidden person. Each one of us a hidden person of the heart. And God is valuing that. It is precious in the sight of God. And that also will help others when we really seek to live before God, valuing our inner life. That will help others. So that's a tremendous encouragement for us. So our life, in Christian life, our inner life is more important than external things. So that is why all attention should be given to develop our inner character, the hidden person of our heart, the Christ-likeness inside, the internal transformation. That is where we should focus. We can say, we often hear in CFC, we speak about new covenant. So one way is, what is the difference of old covenant and new covenant? One difference is, old covenant things were more external. Focus was more on external. But in the new covenant, focus on inside. We should not forget that. Old covenant purity was more external, but the new covenant is inside. We often hear from brothers, it's a little slogan for me also. For us, Sunday is not the most important day. And that's an interesting thing. We never hear it from any other church. Sunday is not the most important. We all hear that, no? We know that. Interesting that expression. For us, what is important is Monday to Saturday. Meaning of that is, it's not a couple of hours we spend in the church. What God is saying. It's our real life outside, at a home, workplace, when you travel, when there's a traffic jam, somebody is breaking the rules. All through Saturday to Sunday, that life is more important. Then with that, we come here on Sunday. That should be the pattern. So we should not forget that. For us, our life outside of the church is more important than when we come to the church. And that hidden life is, God is watching it. Are we really interested in that hidden life that happened outside when nobody is watching? How we conduct, how we deal in business, how we talk, and how are things inside? That is where we should give more attention. There's a little expression in Philippians chapter 2, verse 12. My beloved, just as you have always obeyed, not as in my presence only, but now much more in my absence, work out your salvation with fear and trembling. So that expression is much more in my absence. That we should be always reminded when you are alone. There we should always remember that much more should apply there. When we are all together in the church and family, things are maybe a kind of unseen, a protection. We are a little better place. But when we are alone, in the absence of our dear ones who are keeping an eye on us, suppose, that is where we should work out our salvation with fear and trembling much more. So, dear brothers and sisters, may God help us to bless us through all that the Lord is reminding us. And as I mentioned in the beginning, let us not be happy in just having a good opinion of others, having good vessels in the sight of others, all good, everything, no difference with the others. But never forget the truth that it's not enough just to have the polished lamps. More important, we should never miss the importance of the oil that need to be carried, that hidden thing, the hidden life, the Christ-likeness, the character development that, as I mentioned, often comes through crushing. We should not miss it. And very often, God is, as I mentioned, God is interested. People look at outside, but God looks at the heart. And that is where our focus, our desire also should be. Inside is our thoughts, our motives, attitudes. These are hidden. Even when you do good things, some good service, God is looking at the motive with which you do that good thing. I remember God taught me a lesson. I remember some years back, I gave a gift to somebody. So I gave a gift, and while giving only, I know I had a wrong motive. I wanted to please somebody in a carnal, human way. And when I gave it, after that God really spoke to me, convicted me. So it's a dead work. You wasted that money. So I never forget that. I did that good work of giving a gift, but my entire motive was wrong. I wanted to get something out of that family. I had a totally wrong motive behind doing that good work. So I understood the corruption in my life. I'm doing a good thing. That people thought I'm a good person. You are so kind to give that gift. But God knew my motive behind it. So I learned a principle from there. I can do some good things with a wrong motive. God hates it. It's a dead work. So may God bless us and encourage. It's an exciting life when we can focus on our inner life. life, Christian life become exciting till we die. Because always God will show something little bit we can work on. We can more and more be like Christ. Our Christian life will never be boring. We are gripped with the necessity of change right inside. No, never be happy with the external progress, good opinion of people. So value of no value. God's opinion about us is the most important thing. Amen.